Hello, welcome everybody to my channel for another educational lesson. This is Francisco Perez.
Is made up of 606 feet, 606 feet, 606 feet, 606.
So if you don't know, we're going to be covering the pyramids and artifacts in America that connects to the Hebrew culture. What you don't understand is that Afro-Mexicans, Afro-Puerto Ricans, African-Americans with full beards are of Hebrew ancestry. Whether or not you came later and you left all that at the door and you started an indigenous tribe, or whether the Greeks came and conquered your people and perverted you and made you on a different path, or whatever it may be. Maybe you're a Moab and you were already here practicing indigenous culture from the very beginning. But this is something that's been hidden from you. This is here being held in front of your face, and because you don't look and you don't read, you don't understand this information. So we're going to get into it.
Feet, 606. It's made up of stades, exactly the same. Now, if that's not interesting enough, look at the angle of the Great Pyramid of Giza. If you take the...
So right now they're comparing the Great Pyramid of Giza in Egypt with American pyramids and mounds. So you got to understand, it's not just that they're megaliths, but they're built the same exact way, in the same direction, on the same ley lines, facing the same constellations.
Angle of the Great Pyramid of Giza, the slope is 51.8 degrees. Let's go back to the earthworks. If you measure the line that goes straight through the center of the structure, right here, and then you go true north, it's 51.8 degrees. That angle is exactly the same angle as the pyramids of Giza. It is the same math, the same calculations as ancient Egyptians. Let me show you.
So it's trying to tell you guys had the same knowledge. You guys had the same technology. You could have built some of the pyramids in Giza. I can show you pictures of you. You gotta understand, this has all been held from you. I can show you artifacts where the Smithsonian taking whole shiploads of artifacts of yours and threw it in the ocean. Nobody wants you to know this stuff.
One more connection. In 1860, David Wyrick, he's a guy who's...
So this right here, this is Moses. As you can see, his full beard, his afro. This is your family.
Surveyed the Newark
They called him Michelle.
earthworks. He was digging into a mound near...
One more thing, that's where they get the name Mexico from. Mexica. Moses.
Those earthworks, and he found a wooden coffin made of oak. They opened up the coffin and found a skeleton of a man holding a little box that was about 8.10 inches in size. The box had been cemented shut here. This, by the way, is sitting in Ohio. Well, he opened up the box and he found a little man inside, a little black stone. They took it to scholars and they looked at it. The man seems to be carrying something,
Bible.
And there's writing here at first they couldn't recognize. The writing is, they thought in 1860, some sort of Hebrew. Well, finally, about 20 years later, they found some rabbis living in the area, and the rabbis looked at that, and they could read it. They said it was an old kind of block Hebrew, and it was a rendition of the Ten Commandments. Now,
the Ten Commandments. Now you must understand, if you look all over the world, the only places you can find Ten Commandment stones are in America, in New Mexico and in Ohio. The only places in the world, yet they want to say you're not real, or you belong on the other side of the world. No, this is our home. America is the land of milk and honey.
this is another piece. Block Hebrew, they said they'd never seen anything like it. Mainstream archaeologists at the time called this a hoax. But then in 1900, or just about after 1900, in Israel, they found the same block-style Hebrew writing. Mainstream archaeologists still dismissed the findings. They found it in Israel.
Now you must understand, when the land was divided in Jubilees, Shem got the middle lands. It was hot and cold. So you must understand, we were here in America and in Asia. Those are both our territories.
Israel, and they found it in Ohio. But there was another stone that they found that they couldn't argue. This is the Bat Creek stone. It was found during the course of an official Smithsonian evacuation. The Smithsonian didn't understand the...
Now this is different. This is a Bat Creek. This is totally different. This is just more and more evidence. You all just seen the last video I put out with the Illinois cave on the Greek and all the artifacts of Cleopatra and Alexander the Great. And I told you and showed you that Maccabees happened here. They came and laid waste to our kingdoms and made us worship many idols and eat pig. We didn't eat pig before that.
The meaning of the writing on the stone. They thought it was Cherokee since it came from Cherokee country. They didn't realize that it's actually Hebrew. They had published this originally upside down. They threw it in a box at the bottom of the Smithsonian, put it in the basement. Many years later, a scholar took it out of the box, looked at it, and went, oh my gosh, it's upside down. It's Phoenician, ancient Hebrew.
Now you gotta understand, right after this, he got fired. They took his ass off. They said, you're giving away too much information.
So what's going on here? What is that about? Where is that history? I'll show you in a few minutes, and we're going to have a conversation. I'm going to show you some more things that the Smithsonian, science, government, commerce colluded to erase. By the way, I want to thank the directors of the documentary Lost Civilizations of North America for bringing these stories to my attention.
The government, the Smithsonian, colluded to hide this history from you. Yet you look at us like we're crazy.
Blown away. To find more, visit the website lostcivilizationdvd.com. Here's the thing we should be asking ourselves. I don't know the story of these. Do you know? Did you know that? Do you live in Ohio and did you know that? Why not? Were the American Indians wronged? Yes. Yes. And that's
the thing right here. When they're showcasing this evidence, they're pinpointing the Mongoloid American Indians. They still not saying that you Afro-Mexican, you African-American are the true indigenous of America who built this. They're still trying to pivot it to another nation like they've always done.
That's what we focus on in America. Is we were bad to the American. Forget about it. It's in the past. The question should be the ones that the founders asked. Who are they? What knowledge do they have? Can you imagine the difference we would have now if we would put our differences aside and put our past in the past and concentrate on today and say, let's learn from each other. What do you have? What is that? What is that?
Roger Williams, founder of the First Baptist Church in America, in the mid-1600s, believed that indigenous people were not only fellow seekers, but that, quote, the Indians were probably of Jewish descent of the lost tribes of Israel. Later, the Indians were probably of Jewish descent of the lost tribes of Israel. But that, quote, the Indians were probably of Jewish descent of the lost tribes of Israel. Later, many other artifacts would turn up that suggested the presence of Middle Eastern cultures in North America.
Protestant priests, Catholic fathers, and Jewish rabbis were seeing these possible links between the Native Americans and ancient Israel. These links included written records that had possible tie-ins to the ancient world.
There were certainly religious beliefs, thinking that the Native Americans may have been descendants of some Hebraic, Jewish, Israelite travelers who to the Americas at different times.
Hiding the fact that you're
or
Native
of other
American.
Old World peoples at
These
different
are
times.
Polynesian ships right here.
The
Phoenician, just like the Solomon Islands.
Perhaps
Ships.
the largest documented religious artifact was this ancient city wall mound, recorded in Squire and Davis's Smithsonian publication entitled Ancient Monuments of the Mississippi Valley.
So to see an artifact...
Now, something you don't understand is Mississippi had a big culture of megaliths and pyramid builders, and it matched the Hawaiian people. It's the same pyramids as the Hawaiian people had. The same type of pyramids the Hawaiian people had. See? Now watch. Right there. This is how it looks. Same exact thing, just like the Aztecs, all of them, all the same crap. I'll get better pictures and I'll put it in the links
like
for the
that,
video.
or the context in which they would place an artifact like that would be, especially something found in association with the mounds, would be, oh, that shows to us the presence of these people at that time here in the Americas. They were responsible for creating that artifact. They were responsible for creating the mounds and for introducing various cultural aspects into the Americas.
The idea that ancient inhabitants knew of and used Middle Eastern Hebrew symbols undermined the notion that Native Americans were isolated savages. It also conflicted with the emerging science.
See, that's why everything is about isolationism, but actually it's diffusionism. See, when you hear about our cultures, especially in the Pacific, we had canoes, and we traveled the whole Pacific with our canoes. Yet they want you to believe that everybody stayed in their little area and never communicated with nobody, but that's just not the truth. As you read the books about America, you see that they had canoes. You see that they sailed. They were navigators as well. So what you don't understand is that in Asia, you know about the Silk Roads, the trade roads, right? In America, there were 5 Silk Roads, and America was a major trading post. That's why you have Poverty Point. That's why you have these ancient mines in America, because there was so much activity. America was the first melting pot
of the day, and would mark the beginning of a long-standing
connection to them.
What happened to these written records?
But it is another irony that we find that we're said to not have any kind of written language or history, and it's all stored in the shelves of the museums.
But every museum, small or big, has a great quantity of stuff that's boxed up that hasn't seen the light of day for literally 100 years.
And we've had the American Indian Religious Freedom Act in this country. You know, in 1978, supposedly we can practice our religion freely. However, our religion is intimately tied with the knowledge that's written on those scrolls, many of which are held in museums that we don't even have. Again, there's this irony of saying no written language, no sophistication, etc., etc. But yet, there sure is something that museums want to hold on to.
You guys thought you were in heaven when you came to our kingdom.
Artifacts containing what appears to be written language excited great controversy when they were originally discovered. According to the scholarly Journal of the Ohio Historical Society, quote, "No subject received more attention or stirred more controversy among archaeologists in the 19th century than the authenticity and presumed meaning of the engraved stone tablets that were periodically recovered from the mounds. Some members of the Ohio Association were among the staunchest defenders of a so-called law."
Now you guys must understand, when they came, this is what they drew. See these cathedrals? They said, though many had seen splendors of Rome and Constantinople, they were amazed at the city of 300,000 inhabitants, fed by freshwater aqueducts, laced with canals and carefully paved streets, adorned by arcaded squares twice as big as Salamanca's. serviced by a marketplace where 70,000 Indians daily bought and sold 1,000 different products, from filigree jewelry to mountains to polychrome feathers, including those of the Quetzal bird. The Spanish were enchanted by the luxuries as the botanical and zoological gardens, by elegantly towered palaces, higher than the cathedrals of Seville, surrounded by large and beautiful private houses with fragrant gardens, shaded by bright cotton awnings, where courtly nobles feasted on fruits and vegetables, sauces and soups, fish and meat, cakes and pies, varied by such delicacies as maguey grubs and hot chilies. Right here it says, they thought they were dreaming. They thought they were in heaven when they seen our kingdoms and how we live.
Race theory, and many had little doubt that the mound builders were descended from one of the ancient civilizations of Europe or the Middle East, most likely the seafaring Phoenicians of Hebrew or Mediterranean origin.
Mysteries of the Mexican period, by the way.
Was the scientific community reacting to these origin ideas? Dr. Stephen Peet may have thought so, and actually charged wanton destruction of the mounds.
Look at this.
Whether intentional or not, whether motivated by religious or political agendas or not, modern experts agree that wanton destruction did occur.
Manifest destiny, the idea that American First Nations have never achieved anything worth preserving.
Now what does that look like to you?
Resulted in the wanton destruction of thousands of earth constructions, mounds, embankments.
What does this look like to you?
And settlements. So we have lost.
To these origin ideas, Dr. Stephen Peet may have thought so, and actually charged wanton destruction of the mounds. Whether intentional or not, whether motivated by religious or political agendas or not, modern experts agree that wanton destruction did occur.
Manifest
they just built
destiny,
a bigger ocean
the idea
vessel. This is an
that
inshore vessel for
American
war.
First Nations have never achieved anything
sailing
worth
vessel
preserving.
would be bigger, like the Phoenician vessel.
Resulted in the wanton destruction
and they have the same phenotypes as the carved inscriptions of the Phoenicians. So let's get it. Fair use statement.
Right here is another great story. This is known as the Ohio Decalouge stone. It's also called the Ten Commandments stone. This has a very unique history. This was discovered in 1859 under the largest mound that we know of in North America. It was not too far from the city of present-day Newark, Ohio.
You see how he says of what we know of, meaning that there's a lot. I read a book that said there's over 1 million pyramids and mounds in North America.
It was a stone mound, which we call a cairn. And after removing the cairn by many thousand wagon loads, the rock was used to rip-rap a lake and to build a dam in Ohio at Buckeye Lake. When they got down to the bottom, they found an earthen structure, a burial mound, like I've already shown you. 9 men were present, led by David Wyrick, who was a surveyor and a historian of type during that time period. They dug into the mound, and reaching the bottom of it, they found a wooden casket. They opened the wooden casket, and there was a body laid out, full skeleton. Again, as the air hit it, it literally crumbled before their eyes because of its age. Within minutes, it just turned to dust. But in that same box was a stone box, and then it was cemented.
Something you gotta understand is, if a body's that old, that it just turned to dust, how old is it? It's definitely pre-Columbian.
Shut by removing it, opening the thing up, they found this other black stone on the inside. That black stone in the inside is a form of Hebrew. It was totally readable of the day. It is still readable today.
Now look at the guy. Look at my face. Look at my nose, my high cheekbones. Look at my beard. Look at my afro. The same phenotypes, because this is our ancestors.
And it is a complete rendition of the Ten Commandments, found in 1859. Orson Pratt also saw this stone, and he recorded his observation of it in the Journal of Discourses, volume 13, pages 130 and 131, and I suggest you all read that.
So now you have references. Remember, write down these references so you can get these books so you can prove history.
This stone right here today is on display in Coshocton, Ohio. It's at the museum called the Johnson Humrick House Museum, and it's absolutely gorgeous. And I recommend if you're heading out that way to go see Hill Cumorah or whatever, stop in Ohio. It's easy to get to, and take a look at this stone. It's absolutely beautiful. The archaeologists of the day, they're divided. Half say, well, it's definitely authentic. The other half say, no, it can't be, because before Columbus, nobody was here. Therefore, it has to be a fake or a hoax. Again, absolute tragedy for American archaeology. But here it is, another proof of Semitic involvement, and a tremendous one. If you notice above the carving of the man, who's in some type of robes, there's also letters. Now, in this form of Hebrew, translated, we've been told it says Moshe, which is for Moses. We also have scholars today in Britain that are working on a language, an ancient Semitic language called Kolbran. And in Kolbran, that would translate into Mosiah.
America. So this is America on Earth, and they're gonna be testing the Decalouge stone.
The history that we were all taught growing up is wrong. My name is Scott Wolter, and I'm a forensic geologist. There's a hidden history in this country that nobody knows about. There are pyramids here, chambers, tombs, inscriptions. They're all over this country. We're going to investigate these artifacts and sites, and we're going to get to the truth. Sometimes history isn't what we've been told.
This is the Decalogue stone with the 10 Commandments written on it on all sides of it. And this is a stone box that the Decalogue was found in.
Okay.
So when it was found, it was enclosed in this box, and you couldn't even see the stone inside. The box is carved out inside exactly to fit the Decalogue stone.
Who's that guy?
Well, this figure here on the front that's wearing a robe and a turban and holding either tablets or a breastplate, and over...
See how they say it's a turban? Not recognizing that it's actually an afro. Look at my head, my hair. My hair looks like a mushroom. It looks like I have a turban on my head. It's because our afro grows like that, like a mushroom top. That's why they make fun of you. And in the Super Mario Brothers, they make you the fucking Toad. They make fun of you at every step they take. Everything they do is make fun of you or tell about your history. They fantasize it in movies or animate it. But it's all your history bit, just a little tweaked and perverted.
Well, this figure here on the front that's wearing a robe and a turban and holding either tablets or a breastplate, and over his head in these Hebrew letters it says Moshe or Moses.
Oh.
So must be Moses.
Okay, that's Moses, all right.
Who delivered the 10 Commandments.
10 Commandments, okay. Well, brought here by Hebrew people in search of a new promised land. I want to know if this stone, inscribed with the 10 Commandments, might have been kept inside the ark, or was it left behind as a clue that one of the Bible's most sacred artifacts is right here in the United States?
Look how they're showing white people. They know that the Hebrews were copper-colored skin. I don't know why they're lying.
It seems to pass the scrutiny of the skeptics as far as the Hebrew text in the language, so now I'd like to try to add some evidence to this whole discussion.
That's why in Hawaii they say we don't have an ancient writing. Yet we have hieroglyphs everywhere. And Hebrew, the first writing that Hebrew had was hieroglyphs, was symbols. And then they went into writing, lettering and strokes. But the original one was hieroglyphs. And in America, there's a shitload of hieroglyphs that match the one in Hawaii.
This thing is polished after it was carved. It's scratched like I would expect. Well, it fits snug.
So the box in itself, it took an awful lot of work. I mean, if it was really a forgery, you wouldn't go to all that much trouble to make a box for it. So I think that speaks to its authenticity, that someone really this was very important to someone.
This is a lot of work, and it's polished. It's got the detailing of the grooves. It wasn't made, as far as I can tell, from modern machinery. Geologically, I don't see any problems here that would make these things obvious hoaxes. So the skeptics have rejected this.
Well, that's been a factor, but Hebrew is an odd thing to find here.
The fact that it's odd doesn't mean that it's not genuine. What it boils down to is really the problem with these artifacts is that the academics don't like them because they don't fit the paradigm. And unfortunately for them, you can't dismiss things simply because you don't like them.
Right.
And so the evidence to me seems clear. There's no reason not to accept these as genuine, legitimate artifacts.
This is gonna be my dismount, but I was gonna get into this, but I'm gonna leave it in the link. This is from the Ohio University, which they go into further detail about the artifacts and shows you where they got it from, ancient maps and everything, so you can go and look further into it. Obviously they're gonna be pushing that these things are fake, but all the evidence point to them being real. Every time you get evidence, they say it's fake, and you just take it as, oh, they're right. You guys have to put in your own work and discern for yourself. Here, this is a little treat for you guys.
Let me show you what it's capable of in the proper hands.
So Thundercats is us. When they made the show Thundercats, they was talking about the Hebrews. So this is gonna be the Hebrews battling against the Egyptians. And this is what he's gonna tell them what this sword is about. See how they look like us?
Uh-oh! Catch! The book told that it was the Thundercats, our ancestors, who first...
So he's talking about the Bible foretold that it was our ancestors, the Hebrews, who in Exodus beat the Egyptians and were able to rise up, and we left Egypt and came to America.
Defeated Mum-Ra! It was the Thundercats who brought law and order to a world of...
After that, King David came into power, and King Solomon, and we brought order to the world, and we conquered America, and we had the Navy, King Solomon's Navy, until he was perverted.
Boring animals! And it is now the Thundercats who are strong enough to maintain this fragile peace.
See, like Africans, the people without beards and who come from Africa, their instinct is power. They're aggressive, they're warrior-like nature, they're really strong people. And white people, they're real cunning, they're real conniving. Asian people is similar. Everybody has their goods and bads, but the thing about us, the Hebrew people, was we were the middle ground. We were warrior-like, yet we were smart, yet we were fierce, yet we were just. We were the good people who were just. That is the thing right there. We ruled justly. That's why when in Hawaii they say the Aloha spirit, the Hawaiian way, is because that was our nature as a whole. With the people with our phenotypes, the Hebrew people, that was our nature, good-natured people. Now you see the priests. The priests are wearing the same garbs that our priests wore. The tunic that you see on the Japanese and Chinese all came from our priests' robes. The capes.
The book told that it was the Thundercats, our ancestors, who first defeated Mum-Ra. It was the Thundercats who brought law and order to a world of warring animals. And it is now the Thundercats who are strong enough to maintain this fragile peace.
And now it's up to you to bring peace to this world that is just chaos. So man up.